Hey fam, it's me, Mr. Tibbs. Lesson 61, using letters to identify geometric figures. So, problem solving. Choose an appropriate problem solving strategy. To solve this problem, if an 8.5 by 11-inch sheet of notebook paper is folded from top to bottom, two congruent rectangles formed. What are the dimensions, length, and width of each rectangle? So, how are you going to solve that? Okay, so think about that. All right, now on to your actual new content. In geometry, we often use letters to refer to as points. So, point A, point B, point C. However, we also talk about, we use those points also to name things, okay? This triangle can be named in any of these ways. We could call it triangle BCA, triangle CAB, triangle ACB, BAC, okay? Any of those are always, it's all the same triangle, okay? It means a triangle with those 3 points. You can choose, and the good thing about this is it means you can just choose a point and then list all 3 and you're good. You don't have to have a very specific strategy for it. That is also true about some of these others. Now, why do we not name this one ACBD? Because it's, well, I'll let you think about that. I think it has a pretty good point about this. I think it talks about it pretty well. Ray has a point and then goes forever in one direction. It's not ray BA because the ray starts at the solid point and then heads towards the arrow. Okay, so that's important. This one, however, they're both arrows, so it doesn't matter if it's AB or BA. They're both equally the same. But this one, it does matter, right? Because that tells us something. And that's really what matters when we're naming something, is the information it tells us. So what information does ABCD tell us that ACBD would not tell us or would confuse us, okay? So these are ways that we write them down, okay? Line segment is just a line over it, but a line AB has the arrows to show that theoretically it goes on forever. When writing abbreviations for line segments and rays, it is important to draw the figure above the letter pair. Okay, so the line there tells us exactly what we're looking at. Let's see. We may name an angle using the single letter at its vertex. So angle B, angle C, angle A are all good. However, angle D is going to give you some trouble, right? Because if you just say angle D, you technically have 3 angles that we might be talking about. We might be talking about this, or this angle, the angle on this other side, okay? Technically, all 3 of those are angles. Now, A, B, and C do have 2 angles, right? So there's this angle, and then there's all of this. But generally, we don't talk about angles when they're above 180, and we just don't we don't really consider it in the same way, okay? It's not very helpful information. So, sorry, it is understood that we're talking about the angle between these two and not everything else. But D is confusing, right? Because you do have 2 really good options, and then this one here, this third one, we mostly ignore, but it could also be, you could be talking about it. So when we're talking about this, the way that we phrase it is we put the angle in the middle, okay? And we can talk about angle ADC, okay? Angle ADC, and that tells us we're talking about the angle that A, D, and C make, which is this first one. If we're talking about angle CDE, okay, that is the angle that these 3 line segments together make up. Okay. Now, there's another way to write it too that's also equal, right? If I do angle CDA, what am I talking about? Well, CDA, I'm still talking about this one right here. Okay. So it's relatively straightforward. It takes a second to kind of put it together, but it's not. I'm not gonna shouldn't throw you for too big of a loop. a rectangle, they're all right angles, all perpendicular. These got to be parallel, right? We use this perpendicular sign, and we use that parallel sign, okay? So those are important to know, okay? So if something's perpendicular versus if something's parallel. So those are important to know. Mr. Thibodeau will sometimes use those. The length of segment PQ, okay, so you could also have it right there if you wanted, is 3 centimeters. The length of segment PR is 8 centimeters. Okay, so what is the length of segment QR? Well, if from here to here is 8, and from here to here is 3, then 8 minus 3 should give you the rest. So you should have 5 centimeters. Okay. In quadrilateral, S is an acute angle. Name another acute angle in this polygon. This is an interesting one. This really should be a problem-solving one because thinking about it. This angle here is going to be identical to this angle here, and these two are going to be identical to these two. Okay, this is called your opposite angle. Okay, in any of these, they're going to be the same. So if this angle is acute, then that one is acute. This one is obtuse, and that one is obtuse. But more than that, they're actually identical. If this angle is 49, then this angle over here must also be 49. Okay. In a rectangle, you get a special thing saying that the angle in either of the ones adjacent to it, that plus t, so angle, so I can just call it angle S right now because there's no other angles I'm too worried about. I could also say angle TSR, but I can shorten it for angle S if I'm in a hurry. It'll make sense. So just like the way I do it here, right? Angle S plus angle T equals 180 degrees. Okay, so these two together have to equal a full line. And that's a parallel. We'll learn much more about that later on. But that has to do with the fact that they're parallel lines and a line is going through both of them. Angle S plus angle R also equals 180. Okay. We'll get into more of the specifics later. I don't want to bog you down yet because the book isn't asking you for it. So just know angle S and angle Q on any rectangular square are going to be equal, the opposite angle. Okay. All right, the lesson practice we're going to do in a second. First off, for the written practice, I'm going to change up here. I'm just going to do 1 through 16 all. Okay, that's your work for today. Now the lesson practice, refer to angle, JKLM and answer problems A and B. So which segment is parallel to JK? Well, we already know it's a rectangle. They gave us that. So if it's a rectangle, we know that this and this have to be parallel to each other. Just like J and M and K and L have to be parallel to each other. Okay. Also, I know that K and L is perpendicular to JK. Okay. Those are just things that I know about because it is a rectangle. They told me that. Which segment is parallel to JK? So JK, so ML. If JK is 10 centimeters long, and if JM is half the length of JK, then what is the perimeter of the triangle? So this is 10, and if this is 10, this is 10. This is half. Half of 10 is 5. If this is 5, this is 5. Okay? So my perimeter is 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5, so 30. So 30 centimeters square. No, just 30 centimeters. There's not. It's perimeter, not area. Use words to show how each of these symbols is read, and draw an example of each figure. Okay. So this is I'm just gonna say it out loud. Line segment BC. So BC, This is ray CD, so CD, and then it has a point there. And then this is line PQ. Okay. Refer to the figure below to answer problems F through I. Angle AMD is an obtuse angle. Okay, AMD. So this angle here is bigger than 90. Okay, so angle AMD, and you have to use the full thing here because angle M has many more options, so you need to use the whole one. Okay, angle AMD is greater than 90 degrees. What is another way to name this angle? You could also call it angle DMA. Okay, DMA or AMD. Both of those are valid. Okay, which angle appears to be a right angle? Well, appears, so we're just guessing here, but the one that looks the most like a right angle to me is angle BMD. Which ray appears to be perpendicular to to MD? So if MD is here, perpendicular, well, if we're assuming that that is a right angle, then BM has to be. Okay. I don't know why that should also be a ray. That's incorrect. That should be a ray, MD like that, because there is no line there. It's not a line, it's a ray. So they call one a ray and then they call the other one a line. That's stupid. All right. So BM. Okay, you could also BM or MB. Both of those are the same. Oh no, they're not. No, they're not. Sorry. MB is the correct way because that's where the dot is. Right. M is where we're starting, and B is going on forever in that line. So we know that it is a ray in that case. Okay. Name one angle that appears to be acute. Okay. Well, there's actually three of them that we know are acute, and we know they are acute. Okay. CMD, BMC, AMB. You could also do BMA, CMB, or DMC. Any of those would work. Okay. Lots of options. Okay. But any of those would have worked. Okay. That's it. That's your work. Have a good one, my dudes.